thank you very, very much for coming. It's very moving actually to see this, the tents and the place beginning to fill up. So my name is Ninian Stuart. I'm involved in Falkland Home Farm here and Pillars of Hercules and the estate. So the first thing I want to say is, I don't know about you, but for me getting here has been quite a big journey. And I was hearing for some of you just actually this morning of coming here has been quite a challenge. So I want to really thank you for getting here. I also want to just name in terms of this, whatever the words that we use, but kind of regenerative agriculture around how do we change what we're doing so that it is fitter for the future. One of the things that's shown up over the last year in this field, or these fields, is that after 41 years of Bruce Bennett initially coming here and starting Pillars of Hercules, which some of you will know, on 2 acres of land, now holds 20 acres of land. Bruce approached Falkland Estate, in fact through the farm, and said, you know, I'm going to be finishing. Would you be interested in buying it? So we thought, oh gosh, we weren't expecting that. So we raised, we got in touch with a few people, including the bank, and so we kind of Pillars of Hercules has come back. Now the reason I'm mentioning that, just in terms of journey, is that 41 years ago, for me, there was a sense of, oh gosh, farming as it was at that point, there were some things which were great about it, but there were other things which just felt it wasn't quite enough. So there's been a journey there, and that's been a huge journey actually of taking on, gosh, a whole team kind of doing the growing, the boxes, the cafe, the shop of 37 people actually. So there's a little bit of what can a little bit of land provide for people, and what happens when you grow together. So I wanted to name that. I also, just in terms of Falkland, wanted to name that there are some things that we're doing well. At the moment we are the farm turned organic, and I see David Atkinson is sitting over here. So, and Pete Ritchie, who isn't going to manage it here, a lot of people will know Pete from Nourish. But the home farm turned organic about 15 years ago. And how many years ago? Longer. Okay. David's got a much better memory than me. So anyway, it has, and actually we're still struggling. A lot of our organic food is not going onto that market. So there's a little bit of what's showing up. I think also just in terms of the crops this year, and I'm now going to then be kind of passing on and we'll hear how it's going in Hertfordshire. But in terms of the crops this year, we've got Robin was just saying the other day, we've got our poorest apple crop. And I was down in the Palace Orchard yesterday, and the cherries there are just not that great. So hello to growing, hello to farming, hello to things changing. And before I pass on in terms of hearing what's been going on in Hertfordshire in England, 10 days ago I was invited down. Some people might know Patrick Holden, who used to be chief executive of the Soil Association, and he invited me down amongst others for a thing around Beacon Farms in Wales. And it was an amazing group of people. There was a real energy. And there was an acknowledgement that those old organic folks, that actually things were kind of quite still. There hadn't been a lot of movement. They'd kind of been keeping on. Whereas Regen Ag has kind of come in with a real energy, which is really exciting people and is moving things on. And I want to kind of just acknowledge that, because I think in 2016, I think you started something in your fields there. And there were a mixture of Regen Ag and organics and people who count themselves, like I do, as both. But it was a little bit of, oh gosh, that long view that David's referred to is you start things, some things work, some things don't. And one of the things that Patrick was saying was, he said, you know, we had a plan for this morning and the weather's saying something different, and we're farmers and we just need to adapt. So I think at that point I will pass on to John, will I? Because in a sense, I met you in the tent and we got into a wee conversation. So take it up from there.
Oh, thank you, Ninian, and thanks for having me. We started Groundswell 9 years ago. But it was the no-till show. I was so excited about this new way of farming. Regen ag was a kind of glimmer in people's eyes in those days, but it was just no one was talking about it. But I was very excited about this new way of not cultivating the ground, and we're basically arable farmers, and we've got some cattle, and we managed to get 400 people into a field and looking at various different machines working, like Clayton, who are here today, and various others. But the lovely thing was getting speakers. Joanna and I had been to America and conferences over there, and I was astonished by how far behind we are in Europe. And very lucky to have Dan Kitteridge here today, who'll be talking after us, and what he's doing is taking all this to a completely another level. But anyway, you'll have to hang about and listen to him talking. It's just we're on the cusp of some really exciting things happening in agriculture, and it's badly needed. But I don't want to sort of lecture you, but you must do this. But the whole point of Groundswell, it was a show put on by farmers to improve the lives of other farmers, basically. That was it. We're all doing things which we weren't happy to be doing. Spending a huge amounts of money on fertilizers and machinery and sprays and all this stuff, and the stuff we're doing the mollycoddling with is getting more expensive and doesn't work year after year. Nature's got a drop on us, but it's if we can work with nature rather than against her, we're so much better off. Anyway, Groundswell expanded from 400 people sitting in a drafty barn listening to some great speakers and looking at some tractors working into a field, and now it's become a much bigger thing, and I won't bore you with that, but it's very, very exciting to be part of the movement, and all we are is facilitators. We're not particularly good farmers, but we've had a kind of a brainwave of seeing how the future could be, and so gather all these people up to talk about it for 2 days a year, and it's utter joy. And here we are in Scotland doing the same thing, and it's so exciting. So I'll get my rather more eloquent wife to take over from here.
Hello everybody, I'm Joanna. When we were sitting in the Nights Inn, appalling little Nights Inn thing on the edge of a freeway in America, is that what you call them? Freeways, yeah. And we were at this conference in Salina, Kansas, and we just had a day of hearing unbelievably exciting people telling us a vision of what is possible and what could happen and what was happening on some of their farms. We just became burning evangelists for this. That's what it was. It was a genuine feeling. This is ridiculous. Everybody should know about this. It's outrageous that nobody knows about this. So that was the sort of feeling behind all this. And because my background was in events and stuff like that a bit and all that sort of thing, I kind of understood that what was needed, the ingredients that were needed, but we came running back and we talked a lot about it. But it wasn't just this event called Groundswell. That wasn't what we were just talking about. It was also the fact that education needed to change in ag colleges, and there should be courses teaching people from the beginning that this was a really viable option, not some sort of hippie sideshow which is the way it's treated at the moment. I mean, nobody takes it seriously on an academic level, which is extraordinary yet, although it's starting to change. But the third thing was we decided that the third way to spread the word was to seed satellite versions of the Groundswell event. And that's harder to do than you might think, because first of all, you have to have people come up like Ninian did and say, I'd like to do it up in Scotland and have a go. And kind of we thought, well, let's just see how we can do this. And it isn't easy to do it remotely, because every area has very different ingredients. And you can't, rather like regenerative agriculture is so context specific, doing a show is context specific, because you can't, it's not like a franchise. You can't say, then you have to get your, have you got a local bookshop you could bring in? You don't know the context. So you can't just make one size fits all. It has to grow out of what the context is. And last year, we sort of got to understand a lot about this. And I'm so happy that this year, it's still flourishing. A lot of people probably still don't know about it, but that's just comms. And that's the most difficult part of organising any event, is finding the right people to tell the word. So this is all just work in progress, but it can go on and on and on. I would like to see in every country in the world there being little go this and go Catalan and go, because everywhere there are people who are interested and they need to band together and inspire each other, because that's all that's happening, is that it's a cluster of people inspiring each other to carry on and do even more things and talk about their mistakes. That's a lovely thing about this movement. Everybody is so willing to share information, to tell people what they did wrong. So don't do this because I did that and it was terrible. When do you hear that in business? You don't get. This is why the whole thing is, we started to do no-till farming, as John said. We ended up being part of a different way of living. Quite simply, on every level, on our farm now, there's a regenerative pulse now, and we've got people coming on like here, that you've got enterprises coming on and doing their thing and just giving people some land, because you don't need it all. Nobody needs it all. We can run a farm and have pockets of land for other people running their thing. Why not? And actually, we don't even think about the money side of it, because it feeds the whole thing anyway. I mean, there are so many other benefits than money, and so that's all very interesting. So I'm just thrilled that the buzz is catching on up here, and may it go on and on for many years. And thank you.
Hi, I'm Johnny, and I farm literally over the fence. We are neighbours with Ninian and all the team here, and I feel like I've been swept along by the Groundswell current. I happened to be in the same talk that John was giving at Groundswell a couple of years ago, and saw Ninian afterwards, and the two of us happened to be standing next to John at the same point, and Ninian said, I think we should do Groundswell in Fife. Johnny, you'll help, won't you? And I thought, so here I am. I'm really excited by the fact that we can increase the access to all the wonderful speakers that we've got over the next couple of days. Getting down to Hertfordshire, for those of us that live in sunny Fife, is relatively easy. But getting down there from Aberdeenshire or whatever, it's quite a trek. So it's great to have context-specific access to all these people, all the conversations that are going on. I encourage anyone who hasn't been to Groundswell, hasn't been here before, go and check out all the talks that are going on. Go and have conversations with all the people in the all the tents out there, and enjoy it. Have a great time.
So we're waiting for the best as last, but there's just a couple of things before that. I think in Wales there was a real sense, and this is building on, Joanna, your point around go for it, go there. But in Wales we were talking about this sort of mycorrhizal network of things that are happening, of farms who are doing interesting things and who are part of that network. Some of you were, and I know Mary was at the Good Food Nation conference, was it back in February or something like that? And we had, there was this open space, so I put up my hand and said, anybody interested in Go Falkland? And about 7 people came into this little cluster. And 2 of them were saying, they said, why Falkland? You know, why can it not be Go Berwick or, you know, Go Lerwick or, you know, wherever it is? And I think there is that sense, and I've spoken with John and Joanna about this, but there is a little bit of, we are doing it here, you are doing it in your own places, is what happens if after today or after this next 2 days, people go out and take it to the place that it is. Now, part of that, we also have got a small grant from, is it Agri-Environment Network? Is Seamus around? Agri-Food Network. And there will be a thing with, for our phone barcodes and stuff like that. There will be that will be happening around here. There's a little bit of, this has really stretched us, so we're not quite there with that yet. But please do, if you do have a chance at the end, to kind of come back on that. And that's part about building this community of practice out there.
The link is on the website.
Thank you. So the link is on the website, and speak to Seamus, and thanks for holding what you're holding. So the last thing, before I hand on to Jim, is, I actually feel quite touched by this, but I want to acknowledge 2 things. One, I want to acknowledge Eddie in the room, and still on the creative approach, 8 years ago, we had a little group of people on the estate getting together, trying to say, how can we move from where we are now to a kind of a better place, a better way of holding the land, and doing it together. And Robin, who's coming along here, who is farming, just who manages the cattle and the sheep on the land, he flung a sack on the floor, and he said, I get 50p for this. Now, you might imagine what it was. It was wool. Just remembering, what was it? Wool made Britain great at one point. And how do we not value our wool? So part of that inspiration was also, my wife Katrina, in a sense, was turning into a weaver. And over the last few years, I think, was it with the 2022 stock of wool, we now have something to show for it. So I wonder if perhaps Erica and Jimmy, would you both kind of come up and reveal what you've been working on? So this for me is really, this has taken a lot of work. And by the way, we're not, well, this, So this is the Falkland blanket. And do you want to reveal it? Shall we reveal it?
Go on.
How do we do that? There we are. So when Erica and Jimmy are from Newborough Handloom Weavers, would you like to just, I don't know, a minute or so, just to say kind of, how did this happen? How did this come about?
There's a lot to say in a minute or two, but I'll try and keep it as succinct as possible. Jimmy has been weaving for a few years, and I've been weaving for a few years as well, about 6 or so years now, learning and working with Jimmy. And when I started working with Jimmy, it was just really an idea of just documenting the process of weaving, techniques, sharing it with friends and family on a Facebook page. And it's grown into deciding to try and make items that we can sell. We started making tweed, and then we started making blankets just a couple of years ago. And when we started weaving together, we were just thinking that we could say it was made in Scotland, using Scottish wool, and we struggled to find Scottish wool. Really, really struggled to get any kind of quality of Scottish wool. Most of it comes from Australia and New Zealand, economies of scale, softer wool, just the demands of what people want to wear next to their skin. So it's been something at the back of our minds for quite a long time to look for local wool, and we found Falkland wool. We couldn't get more local. We're less than 10 miles away. So this has just been a dream for us to be able to work with this, have the challenge of working out how to process it, the best way to turn it into the yarn that we would need to weave the blankets, work with the colours, the natural colours, with the Cheviot sheep and the Texel cross, to get the two colours to then make a design, and here we are.
Thank you.
And whereabouts is your store? Just in terms of if anybody wants to come and speak with you, do you have a store on the place?
So we're in the Fibre Shed Scotland tent,
Right.
which is just directly across the grass over there. So there's lots and lots about all the different processes of how you take from fleece into yarn and all the different things you can do, all the properties of wool. We've got a display board as well and some leaflets with a bit more information about the journey of the Falkland blanket. So thank you.
Okay. Jimmy, thanks for getting it started. And Erica, thanks for helping to see it through. Wonderful. So I think, in a sense, that's going to pass on to Jim, who is going to kind of help to capture some of this. Have a great day. Please do. We're learning. We're on a learning journey, and there are some things, both with this event, that we think, oh, we could get better. So please do help us to see where it is. There's kind of 3 words that in the survey we've been talking about, but also just generally, which is awareness, attitude, and action. And maybe through the day, if you could just kind of go with those. So there's a little bit of what are you seeing that you may not have seen? What are you understanding that you may not have understood? And using your eyes, your intellect, and all of that. An attitude is, what am I feeling about this? Interestingly, you had a session just before Go Falkland last year up at your farm. If you remember, a big barn thing was, what was it? AHDB, Arable Horticultural Development Board stuff. So I was there, and there was a guy who came up to me and he says, because I was Johnnie said, come and hand out some leaflets. So I was handing out leaflets, and the guy said, I've seen some really good stuff. And he says there's some kind of pretty woolly stuff there as well. And I said, what was the woolly stuff? And he says, well, the stuff about wool. So there's a little bit of, he was really skeptical. You've just seen that actually there is a way through this, and people are doing that. But actually sometimes you start from that, we canny do that, My dad tried doing that and it didn't work. You'll have all come across that. So there's a little bit of what is showing up at the kind of feeling level. And the last one is action. Go out with fire in your bellies and get on with it. Jim.
Wee bit of background. I work part-time on the family farm. And for almost 30 years, I've written poetry about the farming experience, both on the family farm and our neighbours. And many of the poems are very typical of the farming experience over the last 25 years and before. These poems are things that I'm quite keen to share with audiences that are wider than the agricultural audience, and I was lucky enough to be appointed Poet Laureate of Glasgow 10 years ago. So every time they invite me to read, I read them farming poetry because that's what they need. And I'm always surprised by the lack of awareness of the farming experience, the highs and the lows, the challenges that they face. And it's very much, I want them to come along to a festival like this. And I'll be, in terms of being the poet in residence, it means that I can invade a number of sessions and read poetry before you get into a real serious debate. But I was thinking of what would be a useful poem to start off, and it was this idea of what is the essence of what we're about. And I've been doing a bit of work with our SABI recently, which is looking at the health of farmers. And I feel that farmer resilience is in the middle of that, but it's also very much the pressure from what might be seen as the general public, both in terms of the challenges and criticism farmers get in relation to their relationship with the planet, but also this desire for what they would see as cheap food. So I'm going to read a really short poem, hopefully that captures that. I'll read it twice, I think that would be appropriate. We were talking earlier, and I was getting advice. Remember, it's all about the field. So this is the field, and I've given the field a voice. So I'll read this twice. Farmer in the field. I'm exhausted too, the field tells the farmer. In the silence that follows, the one they shrink into, they listen to the distant city, its hum of hunger and blame. Farmer and the field. I'm exhausted too, the field tells the farmer. In the silence that follows, the one they shrink into, they listen to the distant city, its hum of hunger and blame. Good luck.
Very lovely.